Dreamworks Animation has given us some truly unforgettable heroes. A grumpy ogre, a kung fu fighting panda, a dragon riding Viking, but they've also given us some incredible villains. Or, well, some not so incredible ones. Today, we're going to sort through the good, the bad, and the just plain ugly to find out who the most loved versus most hated Dreamworks villains really are.
I just love the smell of fear.
A worthy opponent. Our battle will be legendary.
Oh, Hal. Where does a person even start with this walking, talking train wreck? Hal Stewart, aka Titan, is the founder, president, and sole resident. When we meet him, he's Roxanne Ritchie's bumbling cameraman, nursing a crush so massive and obsessive it has its own gravitational pull. His idea of flirting is less charming rogue and more future subject of a true crime documentary. He literally invites her to a party for two, complete with a bouncy castle and a I kid you not wedding photographer. Naturally, she says no because she's a sane human being. His response? He throws a full-blown toddler tantrum and punches the news van. So, how does this human-shaped red flag get superpowers? The universe makes a terrible, terrible mistake. That's how. After Megamind's victory over Metro Man, he gets bored and decides to cook up a new hero to fight. A stray laser beam and some clumsy accidents later, Hal gets zapped. Megamind, in his infinite wisdom and a ridiculous space dad disguise, tries to mentor him. But here's the thing, you can't polish Hal isn't noble. He isn't brave. His moral compass doesn't just need recalibrating. It needs to be thrown in a dumpster fire. During training, he sadistically melts a wax figure with a level of glee that genuinely disturbs Megamind, a professional supervillain. Still, Megamind gives him the suit and the name Titan, which Hal immediately misspells as Titan, but his spelling is the least of his problems. His motivation is where it all goes nuclear. Does he want to help people? Fight for justice? Avenge the little guy? Nope. He wants to get the girl. That's it. That's the whole plan. He thinks superpowers are a VIP pass to a date with Roxanne. The very first thing he does is rescue her by playing a terrifying game of catch and release from a skyscraper, then reveals himself, fully expecting her to swoon. When she's rightfully horrified and rejects him, his fragile little ego shatters into a million pieces. He sees her with Bernard, aka Megamind, and that's it. This is the moment Hal graduates from pathetic loser to full-blown menace. His logic? If I can't be the hero and get the girl, I'll be the bad guy and still not get the girl, but I'll make everyone miserable. He goes on a petty crime spree, and when Megamind confronts him, he has the audacity to suggest they team up. Megamind, a villain with standards, flair, and a sense of showmanship, is utterly disgusted. After the big reveal that Megamind was Space Dad, Bernard, and the guy who gave him his powers, Titan wants to kill Megamind out of spite. He terrorizes Metro City, burning Titanville into the pavement, causing way more actual malicious damage than Megamind ever dreamed of. Why? Because a woman didn't want to date him. He is the personification of toxic entitlement. He squanders godlike powers because he can't handle rejection. And the worst part? He learns absolutely nothing. The lesson flies over his head at Mach 5. After being depowered and jailed, he's seen happily dancing to Michael Jackson's Bad. He's completely clueless. And that is why he is, and always will be, despised. Okay, now that we've taken out the trash, let's talk about how to do it right. Let's talk about a villain so cool, so terrifying, and so utterly perfect, he elevated his entire movie to legendary status. I'm talking about the wolf, the Lobo, the literal, honest-to-God Grim Reaper. Death, Puss in Boots, fresh off losing his 8th life, is trying to drink his existential dread away at a local tavern. The vibe is gloomy, but then it drops to absolute zero. A faint, melodic, bone-chilling whistle. Sitting at the bar is a hooded, silvery white wolf with eyes like burning coals. He plays it cool at first, pretending to be a fan. But when he asks Puss to sign his own wanted poster, right on the word dead, Puss scoffs his famous line, "Puss in Boots laughs in the face of death," a line that visibly annoys the wolf. Puss, our swaggering, untouchable hero, gets his furry little butt handed to him on a silver platter. The wolf, with his twin sickles, parries every attack, predicts every move, and then he grazes Puss's forehead, drawing blood. For the first time, a blade has touched the legend, and in that moment, Puss feels real, mortal terror. He abandons his sword and flees like a scalded cat. Death haunts Puss for the rest of the film. That whistle becomes a trigger for full-blown panic attacks. But his motivation isn't just "I'm evil," it's deeper. Basically, he's a cosmic being who got deeply, personally offended by a cat's bad attitude attitude. He's watched Puss arrogantly waste 8 of his 9 lives, treating mortality like a joke. Puss didn't just cheat death, he mocked him. And death is here to collect, with interest. In their final showdown, Death literally summons a hell circle of fire, but he's not facing the same cat. Puss is now fighting for his one precious life, and the friends he's come to love. After a spectacular duel, Puss disarms him and declares that while he knows he can't win, he will never stop fighting. And Death respects it. He's a professional with standards. He came to claim an arrogant little legend who thought he was immortal, but that guy is gone. Puss ruined the hunt by having character development, so with a nod, Death spares him. Live your life, Puss in Boots. Live it well. He's the perfect antagonist. Honorable, terrifying, impeccably designed, and the ultimate catalyst for the hero's growth. He's a villain you can't help but love. Fairy godmother from Shrek 2. Let's be clear, this is not your sweet, bibbidi-bobbidi booing old lady from Cinderella. This fairy godmother is a ruthless corporate shark in a sparkly dress. She runs her cottage, which is actually a massive potion brewing factory with what I can only assume are terrible working conditions, like a magical mob boss. Happiness is a product she manufactures, and she has an absolute monopoly on the happily ever after market. Her whole deal is that years ago, she struck a deal with King Harold. It was classic magical mafia stuff. I'll turn you from a frog into a human, and in return, your daughter marries my son. Capiche? So when Fiona rolls up married to an ogre, it's a breach of contract. One minute she's floating down in a bubble chariot, all sweet and motherly, offering makeovers and empty promises. The next, she's in a back alley, or a royal carriage, blackmailing the king and threatening to take away his happily ever after. Her entire motivation is to get her son, the gloriously useless Prince Charming, on the throne. He is the Nepo baby to end all Nepo babies, a man with the charisma of a wet haircut and the intelligence of a box of rocks. This whole elaborate kingdom-spanning plot is just the most extreme version of a stage mom trying to get her kid the lead in the school play. Her final scene is the perfect summary of her entire character, a massive, over-the-top, egomaniacal musical number where she belts out "Holding Out for a Hero" before trying to vaporize the main characters with a death ray from her wand, and her downfall? Getting poofed into a cloud of glitter by her own reflected spell. She was a bubble of manufactured happiness, and she literally burst. We hate what she represents. A smug, manipulative corporate bully who turned fairy tales into a predatory business. Good riddance. The absolute king of the heartbreakingly understandable villain is a man who was handed an empire and a boatload of daddy issues. Let's talk about Pharaoh Ramesses II from The Prince of Egypt. Calling Ramesses a straight-up villain feels like a disservice. This is a tragic figure from a Greek play who just happens to be in a biblical epic. For the first act of the movie, he's not a villain at all. He's Moses' ride or die. They're just two himbo princes causing chaos, racing chariots, and generally being a menace to Egyptian architecture. They love each other, genuinely. But the whole time, there's this poison dripping in Ramesses' ear from his father, Seti, a man with the parenting skills of a sack of hammers who calls Ramesses the weak link. And that one line becomes the operating system for the rest of his life. So when Moses discovers his heritage and accidentally kills a guy, Ramesses' first instinct is damage control. He's basically like, dude, don't worry, I'll make this go away. We're royalty. This is what we do. He doesn't care about the dead guard. He cares about his brother who is freaking out. When Moses runs away, Ramesses is heartbroken. And this is where it all goes off the rails. Moses comes back years later, and Ramesses is overjoyed, ready to bro hug it out. But Moses is like, yeah, about that. I'm here on behalf of my new boss God, and he says, you gotta let my people go. You can literally see the betrayal shatter Ramesses' heart in real time. His brother, the only person who ever truly had his back, didn't come back for him. He came back for the slaves. Every decision Ramesses makes from that point on is filtered through that one wound. I will not be the weak link. His pride hardens into tyranny because he's terrified of proving his father right. The whole plague sequence is just a brutal, escalating argument between two brothers who can no longer speak the same language. With every plague, Ramesses just digs his heels in deeper, his pride costing him everything. The climax is the quiet, horrifying moment the angel of death takes his son. In that moment, he's just a father, utterly broken. We love him because we see the good man he could have been, if not for the weight of a crown, and the cruelty of a father. He is a villain forged by tragedy, and that makes him one of the most compelling antagonists ever put to animation. Okay, so from the absolute peak of villainy, we now have to wade into the drab, beige, joy-sucking swamp that is Bergen Town to discuss Chef. Her entire personality can be summed up as grumpy former government employee. Seriously, she used to be the royal chef, the big cheese in charge of Trollstice, which is just a fancy name for the annual event where miserable giants eat tiny, happy creatures to feel something, anything. But when the trolls pulled a fast one and escaped, King Gristle Sr. gave her the boot. For 20 years, she's been festering in exile, dreaming of the day she can find the trolls and, in her own charming words, shove them down their ungrateful throats. Her motivation? It's evil, I guess. She's power-hungry, ruthless, and selfish. And that's the whole list. There's no tragic backstory, no complex psychological trauma. Her grand ambition is just, I want my old job back, and also, I want to be the boss. After 2 decades, she finally spots the trolls' ridiculously loud party and snags a few, then stomps back to Bergen Town to convince the new, gullible King Gristle Jr. to reinstate her. Her master plan is just more of the same. Get back to the troll-serving grind. She's not even a great villain. Her biggest strategic victory is tricking Creek, the Zen troll, into selling out all his friends to save his own sparkly hide. Frankly, that says more about Creek being a spineless weasel than it does about Chef's evil genius. But the most infuriating thing about Chef is that she's completely immune to character development. The whole point of trolls is that happiness isn't a snack food, it's inside you. All the other Bergens get it. They have this huge emotional breakthrough. They start singing and dancing, except Chef. While Poppy is literally giving a heartfelt speech about inner peace, Chef is just like, nah, and tries to murder her. She's so stubbornly one-dimensional, she's less of a character and more of a grumpy plot device that needs to be overcome. Her defeat is as uninspired as she is. She gets knocked onto a cart, rolls away, and gets eaten by a monster in the credits. Bye, Felicia. Chef is hated because she is fundamentally boring. In a movie that's an explosion of color, music, and relentless optimism, she's just a grey, joyless smudge. Now, let's talk about a villain who is the polar opposite of boring. A character so stylish, so tragic, and so utterly ruthless that he basically carries his entire movie on his fabulous feathered back. Let's bow down to the magnificent, the terrifying, the genocidal albino peacock, Lord Shen. First, can we just pause and appreciate the sheer audacity of this concept? An evil peacock. In a pitch meeting, that sounds like a joke, but on screen, it's genius. Shen is what happens when grace, beauty, and lethal precision are blended together in a cauldron of unresolved childhood trauma. The way he moves is a deadly ballet with more blades than a knife store. His design alone is so striking, he should be on the cover of Vogue, Evil Aristocrat Edition. But a cool look only gets you so far. What makes Shen an all-timer is his story. He's a prince, born into a family famous for creating pretty fireworks. But our boy looks at gunpowder and sees potential for a much, much bigger party, with cannons. His parents, rightfully concerned their son is a budding supervillain, consult a soothsayer who drops a prophecy. A warrior of black and white will defeat him. Now, a normal person might hear that and think, okay, maybe I should take up a new hobby, like pottery. Shen? He decides the only logical response is genocide. You know, just a slight overreaction. This one act immediately tells you he is not messing around. Naturally, his parents are horrified and exile him, which he interprets as, they never loved me, and he spends years stewing in that rage. He returns with a cannon that basically makes Kung Fu obsolete, creating a genuinely interesting conflict for Po. Shen is a monster, no doubt, but he's a monster forged by pain. He's convinced his parents hated him, and that wound fuels every single thing he does. He gets inside Po's head, playing a one-man band on his deepest traumas. The line, "Your parents didn't love you," is just brutal. And his ending? Chef's kiss. After Po achieves inner peace and starts playing dodgeball with his cannonballs, Shen's entire worldview implodes. His unstoppable weapon is beaten by the very thing he tried to erase. As his giant ruined cannon falls toward him, he has a moment. He could run, but he doesn't. He just closes his eyes and accepts it. Lord Shen is the total package. A killer design, a heinous backstory, a compelling psychological motivation, and a purpose that that drives the story. Dark, tragic, and unforgettable. A true legend. Now let's talk about the villain nobody asked for from the sequel nobody was sure we needed. Let's head over to the land of Far, Far Away and discuss the smug little gremlin from Shrek Forever After, the one and only Rumpelstiltskin. Let's be real, this guy is immediately hateable on sight. He's this short, sneering man-child who looks like a rejected garden gnome that got really into multi-level marketing. His whole vibe is slimy con artist, and his entire business model is tricking sad, desperate people into signing magically binding user agreements where the escape clause is hidden in an origami swan or something. He is the glorified ambulance chaser of the fairy tale world, rolling up in his janky, egg-shaped carriage to profit off of other people's misery. His big motivation is that he had a deal to take over Far, Far Away, all lined up, pen in hand, but at the last second, news broke that Shrek had already saved Fiona. His whole plan was ruined by the plot of the first movie. So, for years, he just stews in his own bitterness, a failed salesman holding a grudge against the ogre who inadvertently tanked his business. It's just deeply, deeply petty. So what's his grand revenge scheme? He preys on Shrek's ogre midlife crisis. Shrek has a bad day at his kid's birthday party, throws a tantrum, and suddenly Rumpel is there, offering him a be an ogre for a day deal. In exchange, Shrek has to give up a day from his childhood he won't remember. And surprise, surprise, that day is the day he was born. Gasp. Rumpel literally tricks Shrek into deleting himself from existence. And when he finally gets power in this new Shrekless reality, he puts on a tacky white suit, dons a series of increasingly ridiculous wigs depending on his mood, and hires an army of witches to do his bidding. His only friend is a giant goose named Fifi. His downfall is as pathetic as he is. After all his scheming, he gets defeated, his timeline collapses, and he ends up right back in the original reality, locked in a cage. He becomes a sideshow attraction, forced to dance for everyone's amusement while his beloved Fifi gets accidentally exploded by Fiona's singing. The indignity is just perfect. He's a nasty, opportunistic pest, and he gets the petty, humiliating end he so richly deserves. We need to talk about the original, the undisputed, the angsty kung fu kitty with the biggest case of daddy issues this side of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Let's pour one out for the absolute legend that is Tai Lung. Can we just be real for a second? Tai Lung is the inevitable result of a prodigy getting saddled with the most emotionally constipated father figure in animated history. I'm looking at you, Shifu. This snow leopard cub was your star pupil, your golden boy. He mastered 1,000 scrolls of kung fu, which is like 999 more scrolls than I've ever even looked at. All this kid wanted, his entire life's motivation, was to get a metaphorical gold star and a good job son from the little red panda who raised him. And what does he get for his trouble? Oogway, the perpetually chill tortoise, takes one look at him and basically says, nah, vibes are off, and denies him the title of Dragon Warrior. And Shifu, the man he saw as a father, just stands there and says nothing. Nothing. Is it any wonder Tai Lung went on a full-blown rampage and threw the biggest hissy fit in the history of the Valley of Peace? His whole villain arc is one giant desperate scream of, notice me, Dad Senpai. That one line during their fight, all I ever did, I did to make you proud, tell me, is more compelling and tragic than most villains' entire backstories. But here's why we love him. He backs up the angst with raw, terrifying competence. They built a whole maximum security prison just for him, and he breaks out using a single feather, a feather. He then proceeds to walk through the entire Furious Five like they're a mild inconvenience on his way to the bathroom. He uses his signature nerve attack, paralyzing them one by one. The man is a one-leopard wrecking crew. His downfall is, ironically, the very thing that makes him great, his pride. He simply cannot compute that the key to ultimate power is a fat panda who weaponizes his own jiggle physics. The dragon scroll is blank, the secret is you, and Tai Lung's brain just short-circuits. He spent his whole life chasing an external prize, only to be defeated by a guy whose power comes from inner peace and a deep love of dumplings. It's poetic. And he even gets a redemption arc. He comes back, sees Po for the legend he is, and respectfully bows. The glow up, the character development. He goes from a furious, rejected son to a wise spirit master who finally found the peace he was looking for all along. Compelling motivation, terrifying skill, and a full-circle character arc? Yeah, Tai Lung is top tier. Oh, Humpty, you could have been a contender. Instead, you're one of the most frustrating and disliked villains in the Dreamworks lineup. Humpty Alexander Dumpty from the first Puss in Boots movie is the ultimate example of a character whose motivations are just too petty to be compelling. The story starts off so promisingly. We see Puss and Humpty as children in an orphanage, two outcasts who become brothers. Humpty is the dreamer, the brains, obsessed with finding the magic beans and reaching the giant's castle in the sky. Puss is the muscle, the loyal friend. You feel for them, but as they grow, their paths diverge. One day, Puss saves the Commandante's mother from a raging bull and is hailed as a town hero. He gets his iconic boots and vows to walk the straight and narrow. Humpty, however, couldn't handle his friend's success. Consumed by jealousy, he tricks Puss into helping him rob the San Ricardo bank. The heist goes wrong, the town's money is lost, and Humpty is left on a collapsing bridge, unable to get up. Puss, feeling betrayed and heartbroken, abandons him to be captured. This is the core of Humpty's character. He's driven by a burning resentment that his best friend became a hero and left him behind. The entire plot of Puss in Boots is an incredibly elaborate, long-con revenge scheme orchestrated by Humpty. He hires Jack and Jill, he manipulates Kitty Softpaws, and he lures Puss back into his life with the promise of finding the magic beans, their shared childhood dream. He plays on Puss's guilt and nostalgia, all with the secret goal of getting his revenge. And what is his grand revenge? To steal the golden goose, lure its giant mother, the Great Terror, to San Ricardo and let it destroy the town and everyone in it. Why? Because the town celebrated Puss instead of him. Because Puss betrayed him on that bridge, even though Humpty was the one who tricked him in the first place. It's so incredibly petty. He's willing to cause mass destruction and death, all because his feelings got hurt years ago. Yes, at the very end, he has a change of heart. He sacrifices himself to save the golden goose and the town, revealing he was a golden egg on the inside all along, a symbol that he was good deep down. But for many viewers, it feels like too little, too late. For 95% of the movie, he is a manipulative, backstabbing, whiny antagonist whose motivations are rooted in pure jealousy. He's the friend who can't be happy for your success and would rather tear you down than build himself up. That kind of betrayal hits a little too close to home for comfort, making him a deeply unlikable and frustrating character. Finally, let's end on a high note with a villain who is beloved for being completely, utterly, and gloriously unhinged. I'm talking about Capitaine Chantal Dubois from Madagascar 3. Let me try to explain this woman. Dreamworks' writers must have had a fever dream because they created a French animal control officer who is less a public servant and more the T-1000 from Terminator 2 if it got really into taxidermy. She's an obsessive completionist, and her creepy wall of disembodied animal heads is missing its centerpiece, a lion. And she has decided that Alex's head will complete her collection. Her abilities are just flat out cheating. She can sniff a single strand of hippo hair and tell you its entire life story, its credit score, and what it had for breakfast 3 days ago. She plows through solid concrete walls like they're made of styrofoam. She moves with the kind of creepy, spider-like agility that would make an exorcist call for backup. This woman is a walking, talking violation of the laws of physics, and it is absolutely hilarious. The chase scene through Monte Carlo is a work of art. You have the penguins, with their military-grade technology and strategic genius, being relentlessly pursued by one woman on a moped that looks like it runs on pure spite. She dodges every trap, leaps across buildings, and is a more effective threat than most villains with entire armies. But when she gets arrested in Rome, her henchmen are broken, battered, and laid up in the hospital. Does she devise a clever escape plan? No. She does something so much better. She clears her throat and belts out a full, passionate, soul-stirring rendition of Edith Piaf's Non, je ne regrette rien, and the power of her singing literally heals her men. We see bones snap back into place. A man in a full body cast rips it off and is perfectly fine, as one does. Dubois is a gift. She has no tragic backstory, no moral ambiguity, no deep-seated trauma. Who cares? In a franchise about talking zoo animals, she is the most absurd and unbelievable character, and that's saying something. She steals every scene, chews every piece of scenery, and while you're technically supposed to root for the heroes, you can't help but stand in awe of her sheer, glorious, unhinged tenacity.